everybody, welcome back to Tyrus Wings TV. Today I've got Howard Lewis with us from London, who's the creator of a very, very interesting event called Offline. Howard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, good morning.
So Howard, tell us a bit about Offline, because today everybody's online, social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, connecting with people across the world for business and that, while you're doing quite the opposite. So tell us a bit about Offline, how you came up with the idea and what happens at these events. I personally have attended an event, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And Forbes magazine even covered you recently, and you talked to them about your event in London, which is becoming quite famous around the world. So tell us all about it.
Well, the first thing to say is it's a pleasure to speak with you so early in the morning. The first thing to say about Offline is that actually it's about sharing and connecting and engaging with people. That's really, in very simple terms, what it does. Somebody put it to me very, very well. The reason Offline works so successfully is because, in fact, there's no agenda and there's no outcome. In other words, if you put together 30-odd people in a room of whatsoever nature, different backgrounds, different circumstances, different expectations and so forth, and leave them to go on with it, they tend to make their own music. And the problem, in a sense, with a lot of corporate events, which are really designed to be networking oriented, is that people go with a sense of objective. In other words, I must go into the room, I must pick up 25 business cards, arrange 15 meetings, do 6 deals, and life's not really like that. I think the really important point really is that life is all about building great relationships.
Yeah.
If you build great relationships, almost by definition, people want to spend time with you. Mm-hmm. And if people want to spend time with you, they value your judgment, they trust your opinion, they want to hang out, they want to meet your friends. Business typically tends to follow. People enjoy spending time with others who listen, who share, who want to actually be somehow of a giving nature. And the difficult thing, I think, in modern life, particularly in modern business life, is that there is an obsession, I think, with the concept of give and take, where I do something, but on condition that I take something back in return. And I've got a slightly different approach to that, which is that give and then give again. Because when you give a second time without being asked, the whole world opens up to you.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you come up with this idea? Because obviously you've been managing your family's art business for many years, and tell us a bit about that. And how did you sort of morph into this whole concept of Offline? What was the epiphany moment?
I came originally, to be honest with you, because I'm a very curious person and I read very widely.
Yeah.
And I would often read articles in publications. I would read newspapers, periodicals, and whatnot. And basically, I would send articles to people I thought they'd find interesting. But what's on it? Whether it was about cricket, whether it was no victory, whether it was about, frankly, the EU bottom out, it didn't make a difference to me at all.
Yeah.
What mattered was that it was a very simple and effective way of saying to somebody, I thought about you, and here is an article which may be of interest. Nothing more, nothing else, no expectation, didn't want anything in return. But actually, the feedback was almost universally positive. People were very, very pleased to actually, A, receive anything which wasn't spam or wasn't sent with some kind of an objective or agenda. Yeah. And actually, the fact that people generally like to receive things in hard copy. There's a physicality which I think is missing in so much of today's life. Online is great, but online has very severe limitations to Fabrizio, because I think that the tactile dimension, holding paper, just a physical rustle, opening the envelope, that sense of expectation, is very powerful. Anyway, what happened was that I sent articles to a bunch of people, all of whom gave me great feedback. So it was wonderful, they really appreciated it, they really enjoyed it, subject material. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to bring together a bunch of people who'd all been past recipients, have stuff together, and see where the conversation takes us. And it was a great success. People actually, in the end, enjoy being with other people. That's the key ingredient here. There wasn't actually any objective, as I say. It was simply the pleasure of being there. And I think it's a pleasure which is forgotten all too often. If you live your life whereby there is some kind of an outcome, I limit yourself.
So how many years ago did you start the Offline events?
Well, the very first one was about 10 years ago, but I had a bit of hiatus for various reasons. I've been doing it properly for about 5 years.
Okay.
I've done this year 8 dinners.
Okay. So almost one a month.
roughly. I mean, I wouldn't say that I do it with any kind of precision.
Yeah, okay.
It's normally every month or two.
Yeah.
But now I've been asked also, I mentioned you before, to develop a corporate version.
Yeah.
Corporate version is where I will invite company X, who wants to get a bit closer to their clientele without selling any kind of product, an opportunity to bring 20 or so people to dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I will invite 20 people to that dinner as well.
Yeah.
People they don't know, all new prospects. And in a way, it's not about actually the client, it's about their own people, how they feel about themselves, how they engage, what they can share. It's really about recognizing that fundamentally we're all the same but different.
Yeah.
And in the modern world, there's a tendency of people to label themselves and one another much too quickly. And the virtue of the offline version of, well, the corporate version of offline is the fact that you invite 20 odd people who you may well get close to without selling anything, different environment, different conversation, and whether these people, frankly, are your clients, they can be your suppliers, they can be the chairman's wife, for all I care. It doesn't really matter. But you want to get closer to them. I invite 20 people. I'll host the evening. 40 odd people in the room. The corporate client gets the opportunity to speak to their own clientele in a very different way. Gets to meet my people who may be prospects of their business, who knows?
Yeah.
But more importantly, their people might meet my people. And that's, I think, where the juice lies. And I charge companies to attend, and I'd be delighted if your listeners want to participate, because I think that every company actually needs to find a way whereby they can engage, looking in the white of somebody's eyes, breaking bread with them, laughing, arguing, sharing, frankly, staring into space, but doing it physically in front of one another.
Yeah, tell us a bit about some of the recent events that you've run, and what type of people were there, and what type of stuff came out as a result of the evening.
All kinds of stuff have emerged. I mean, look, the first thing to say is I'm probably unusual in the sense that I don't actually vet or pre-qualify anyone. I don't care about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
To me, that's really a complication which is unnecessary.
Yeah.
In other words, if you limit yourself only to people within a certain kind of demographic, certain age group, people who are, I would say, defined by a particular history, background, age, and so forth, you limit yourself. So I invite people from their 20s through to 80s. I don't care what you do, frankly. What I care about very much is what you give, what you contribute to the evening.
Yeah.
And basically, I am the host. I know everybody one way or the other. Some people know very well. Yeah. Some people know quite well. Some people don't know at all. But that's also good.
Yeah.
But I did a dinner in November where I think out of maybe 35, 37 people, 15 people I've never seen in my life before. Okay. Friends of friends, clients, associates. Somebody's mother came, somebody's wife flew in from out of town, something. It doesn't really matter to me.
And people coming from all over the world, right? To London.
Some people do. I think, I've had people from Italy, I've had people from Singapore, I've had people from the US, I've had people from Africa. I mean, I wouldn't say they come in specifically for the event, but they are people who are international in scope and who have an international perspective. And that's very important. So in terms of where they come from, what they do, people in banking, people in tech, people in hotels, people in fashion, people in art, sport, small businesses, large businesses, people who are retired, people who are academics, I don't care. What matters most of all is what people give when they're there. Because I think on the whole, most people are very closed and they're very reluctant to reveal where they're weak. And one of the great virtues of offline is actually, you see this yourself, it's designed to take people out of their comfort zone. Not in an invasive way. I don't want to obviously embarrass anybody or make an example out of them, but I want people to look at the world through a slightly different set of eyes.
Yeah, okay. So now, this year we've seen a bit of a ruffle with Brexit, with Trump, with now Italy even voting in a certain way. How do you think all this change that's happening is going to change the way people do business? And obviously social media has played a big role in all this shake-up that's happened. Going into the new year and the next 5 to 10 years, I mean, we were talking at the meeting we had in Manchester the other day about the role of cities becoming more prominent than nations. Can you kind of expand on all this?
Yeah, perfect. Well, I think it's an interesting area. I think that what's very clear is that the dominant cities in the world, London, New York, Hong Kong, a few others besides, more regional nature, are actually becoming so dominant within their respective countries that actually their importance assumes an even greater level. I think if you were to look, for example, at a range of major capitals, you will find, in fact, they have more in common with one another than other cities in their own country. In other words, they are so international in scope. The number of people who are coming in and out, the industries which are founded and flourishing there, I think are. It's always been the case. Not as there's some new phenomenon. If you go back to the Renaissance, you find there are all kinds of extraordinary city-states, particularly Italy, you know, whether you were in Genoa, whether you were in Venice, whether you were in Naples. And of course, if you would then go back further north towards Germany, Germany again had all kinds of bishoprics and palatinates and so forth, all mini countries in a sense. And what's happened is that the world has become more joined up, but in some sense for the wrong reasons. And I think the idea that everybody in a country the size of Italy or India or wherever it may be should all be the same, it's nonsense. I think the fact of the matter is people come from all kinds of backgrounds. Often they are brought together by the whim of some administrator's pen. Okay, if you're on the left of the mountain, fine, okay, you're in a different country now. Well, I'm sorry, that doesn't really work. I think that in the end, most things do not change that much. I think that certainly what we are seeing in the world at large is the fact that the urban population is growing. It will continue to grow in importance. It's becoming very evident in places like Africa, where, of course, the majority of the population was living in countryside. And if you look at the major urban centres, they're almost on a scale unimaginable in London, where you've suddenly got a city of not 5 or 10 million, you see the 25 or 30. I tell you a story. My father went about 2 or 3 years ago to a city in China called Chengdu, I think it was.
Okay, yeah.
Exactly. But anyway, my father had not been to China before. He was on a trip with various other people, and he said, he kept a little diary of what he was doing, where he was going. He said, I went to the city, and he said, the cool thing about it was that there was like 30 million people. He said there were 10 universities within the metropolitan area. He said the most extraordinary thing about it was he'd never even heard of it. Now, it was interesting for me in a way. My father's a very educated, civilized guy, had not heard of a city of that sort of size. Now, I think that the move towards cities is a very powerful trend. And although China's a vast country, and it's not quite the same as Europe, nonetheless, the aggregation of people in very particular areas, rather than being very spread out, is going to continue. And I think that cities will dominate. They are doing anyway in some respects. I think if you look at where's the great talent today? The great talent is very concentrated in particular areas. Now, okay, people have the means of travelling quite easily, but nevertheless, it's also about the fact that talent attracts talent, and therefore you typically find that people will go where the greatest aggregation really lies. And in cities, you're seeing it more and more. The big question really is, to what extent do big cities become almost independent? That's the idea of a city-state, whereby you can say, okay, you know something, New York is just going to secede from the Union. London is not really part of the UK. It's geographically part of the UK, but there's very little relationship with the rest of the UK in terms of people, place, industry, activity, expectation, and so forth. And that's why I think that actually the role and the rise of the cities is very important going forward.
Yeah, okay. That's very interesting. So where do you intend to, with this city thing, of course, and you're doing offline in London, are you looking at taking offline to some other
I've been asked to do it abroad. Look, the question really is, if people ask me, I'll go where they like. I was asked it in New York, I was asked it in Mumbai, funnily enough. The question really is, I don't know people there in New York I know quite a lot of people, in Mumbai I wouldn't. So the question really is, if you have people there who want to actually host an event, let me know. I'll go anywhere, frankly. But I think that what I'm trying to say is, fundamentally, everybody's the same. Okay, different language, different colour, but our sentiments, our emotions, our hopes, our fears are pretty much the same. Whether you are in London, whether you're in New York, apparently whether you're a bushman of the Kalahari Desert, you still have the same hopes, fears, aspirations, and so forth. For a better life, okay, the Kalahari Desert, the rains will come, but ordinarily, you are making sure you can provide your family, you can ensure you're able to fend off enemies, you're able to ensure that you're able to progress year on year. That doesn't change that much wherever you go. I just think in the modern world, we tend to overcomplicate life.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's why I say, unfortunately, we have a tendency to label ourselves and one another. I am this, this, and this, and I think, well, that's very interesting. What about the other 95 things you can do? You're not that at all? I mean, of course you are. But people are very, very keen in the modern world to reinforce what they do well. People like certainty, Fabrizio.
Yeah.
People do not like vagueness. People do not like things which are a bit sort of difficult to define. People like to be absolutely certain. People do not like to show weakness.
Mm-hmm.
See, I show weakness a lot.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, one of the virtues of offline is the fact that we're not designed to be perfect. And recognizing that is a very powerful tool for every individual. People say to me, yes, I'm great at that. I think that's how dull. How dull is that? You know, saying, who cares how brilliant you are? Well, I'm interested in actually what you're not quite so good at. What you were great at 5 years ago, not working out so well now. That's what's interesting. Rather than telling me how you outperformed your peers and you made $97 zillion, nobody cares about that kind of thing. In fact, the only person who cares about that is you. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that's a rather sad indictment of the very competitive nature of modern business.
Yeah.
And offline, going back a step, is really designed to somehow prick that bubble.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm open to everybody's suggestion. Yeah, a few people who see this say, by the way, I'm in Istanbul, are you free next week? Yes, I am, with pleasure. You know, if we agree appropriate terms and you put together the crowd, I'll do the offline reprise. And the offline reprise in the end is about telling stories. It's about gathering people, in a sense, around the fire. It's about sharing. It's about closeness. It's about, in a sense, also recognizing your weaknesses of what make you attractive as an individual. And I like that very much. I think people, in their obsession with perfection, do not lead an authentic life. People are very concerned to present themselves in the best possible way. And I think to myself, who cares about that? You know, okay, we know you're brilliant at X or Y, but you know, it's like, tell things like you're less brilliant at. Yeah. Things which you were great at once, not so great now. Or actually, things where you thought you were good, and you realised it's like someone else is better.
Yeah.
That's also interesting. You know, I was doing brilliantly well, so I saw some 25-year-old who was 10 times better than me.
Yeah.
How did I respond to that?
Yeah.
Maybe I found a very positive thing. I was thinking, it's like, he should be my partner.
Yeah.
I'd like him on board with me, rather than fighting it as though somehow he committed some terrible crime. You know, he's missed, you know, he's either got my nose out of joint, he's displaced me, that's not good either. So again, it's about finding things which connect and unite people rather than just separate them.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you think, I mean, obviously today social media is playing a big game in business and in shaping the world. What's your view on this whole social media thing in technology and artificial intelligence now, which is playing and will be playing more of a major role in our everyday lives? What's your view about all this? Because obviously this is kind of tending to move people away from this human interaction that offline offers.
It's very difficult to break the mold. It's very difficult for people to say, you know something? I know you're all going this way, but I don't care. I'm saying I am. Very difficult. People are very, very influenced by the behaviour of others, and even if you are in a position of influence, power, whether you're moneyed, whether you're successful, whether you're well, it's very, very hard nonetheless to say, you know something? I'm going my own way. What you're going to see in practical terms is the fact that the involvement or the degree to which AI and I think robotics, automation, and so forth is going to accelerate. I don't think most people actually have any clue as to how quickly it's happening anyway. I think that people think of it as some kind of sci-fi story, which really is not going to come to pass in their lifetime. Actually, I think it's already here. The only issue is it's a bit like mobile phones. Mm-hmm. Once upon a time, your mobile phone was the size of your room.
Yeah.
Now, it's in your pocket.
Yeah.
And AI, in a sense, is that room, and it will become very shortly, I'd say next decade, it will become sufficiently cheap and accessible whereby the tool, which is an equivalent of a phone, will be in your pocket. And I think the big issue, it's a very interesting issue in terms of what's going on in America, because obviously Trump, who I'm not a great fan, has made a big play about the fact that he's going to resuscitate middle America, bring all the jobs back and so forth. And I think to myself, that is a very, very sweeping statement, which I think is very difficult to justify if AI kicks in. Because if AI kicks in...
I wouldn't say if, I would say when. Because, I mean, take, for example, China, which based their economy over the last 25, 30 years on all these millions of people working in a factory for a low cost. Now, a lot of these... now, obviously, China's got a problem with demographics because, you know, they only can have 1 or 2 children per couple. And so they're not going to have those millions of people that can work in the factory anymore. But then on the other end, you've got artificial intelligence replacing the people. So you're right. When Trump says he's going to bring the jobs back to America, I mean, these jobs may not longer exist because the robots replace the person.
I think what's happening is you're seeing the transition from the robot being a tool to being actually a member of the labour force.
Yeah,
that's a big difference.
Yeah.
And I think most people in business don't really quite understand that. I think that the reality of the matter is that in people's desire to lead more efficient lives, to use their time in a more purposeful way, to be more efficient, there obviously is going to be a cost. And the cost is that, unfortunately, people in the modern age are very lazy. It doesn't mean to say that they don't have the brain power, they don't have the time. They do.
Yeah.
But people like convenience.
Yeah.
People like convenience. They like things which they understand, they're very familiar with. And that's partly why you've seen America lose so much to the Chinese and Mexicans. It's not that they can't do it. It's that the Chinese actually work for 20 cents on the dollar. And America's not prepared to do that anymore. That's the big issue, really. You can impose all the tariffs you like, but the fact is that if you're not prepared to compete with them on price, if you only do it on efficiency, you are inviting AI and automation, and I think you're going to find a very large proportion of the US population out of a job. I don't mean this year, I mean permanently out of a job. So what that really means is that you're going to have to find another way whereby you're able to employ, in some form, probably tens of millions of people.
Yeah, I think the struggle is going to be, I mean, the question you need to ask yourself, can a robot replace my job? Can an algorithm replace what I do? And what is it that I can do that the algorithm can't do? And I think creativity is one thing where the human and creativity, emotions, those are things that a machine won't be able to do or will have very limited way. I mean, for example, they are getting robots to paint pictures now, but I mean, you know yourself, being an expert in art, that's not quite going to. Yeah.
I think that clearly the emotional dimension is not something a robot, I think, will ever be trained for. I mean, first of all, what kind of emotional insight you're expecting, but I think nonetheless, if you're simply looking about the functional ability of a robot or equivalent to do a job better than a human, given the existing skills of the average human, yes, that is already going on. Now, okay, it's going on in very selected places, it's going on maybe under close conditions, and at some point it's going to become more mainstream, it will become cheaper to reproduce robots. There are robots already existing for the home, whereby you are disabled or you're infirm or you don't have the ability to speak clearly. A robot, almost like a guide dog for the blind, is there to act to a degree as your eyes and ears. Now, you know, the guide dog is not actually going to open the front door for you, but nonetheless he'll tell you somebody's there. And I think with robots, you're going to see something very similar. They will still require you to physically action certain things, but nonetheless they are there as a kind of they're almost there as a sort of a scout. They're there on the top of the hill saying, okay, there's somebody here, we need to go actually downwind this time, rather than say where we are. They're there to almost invite you to look more widely, to be more aware of your surroundings. But nonetheless, when you have mass automation, I'm not an expert in these things at all, but it just strikes me that the world at large and people who run the world at large are not prepared for the consequences of actually suddenly finding, okay, my robot can actually do all these things for me at 10% of what it costs you as a human, or as an individual. And therefore, on that basis, what exactly are we going to do to compensate?
Yeah,
that's a big problem.
Yeah, so I mean, I think young people today, when they're choosing what vocation to go for, I think they have to have a vision of the future in the sense that what professions are the professions of the future. I mean, what advice would you give to young people today? That I mean, I know you've got 3 children yourself. As far as professions and professions of the future,
it's about recognizing that we are all individuals and we all have different strengths and weaknesses. I think that what I say to my kids, your kids and the other kids who are listening, is keep an open mind. Mm-hmm. Think to yourself, recognize that we cannot be all things to all people. You know, when you only actually ever understood a life embracing social media, the idea that somehow you can live a very fulfilling and satisfying life without it is somehow beyond their comprehension. I remember talking to my kids when they were little, they couldn't understand how I actually managed to get through my life without Sky TV.
Yeah.
I mean, what? Only 3 television channels?
Yeah, I remember that.
Black and white? No, sure, no. I got something misheard there, no. It wasn't black and white. What kind of strange and curious idea is that? No. The fact of the matter is, I think that in the modern world, there's a lack of curiosity. People are too much of a hurry to get on, to make progress, to achieve targets and so forth. And I think really what you need.
Well, even creativity sometimes. I mean, I laugh at how many remakes they're making of certain films in Hollywood, or some of these new films come out. It's this is exactly like this other film I saw 10 years ago. I mean, where's innovation? Where's creativity? I mean, sometimes it's just not there. And you know how.
Well, I think it is there, but everybody's hiding under the bed for it. So that's the problem. It's kind of come out now. You know, it's like there wasn't no scary monsters here. Yeah. Come out. Nobody will be sort of chasing you out of the house. I think people need to have more confidence. I think people are very embarrassed to admit what they don't know.
Yeah.
I think, as I said before, it's a big asset to recognise what you don't know. When you say, I don't know,
yeah,
you demonstrate, in a sense, a kind of weakness. But weakness is a great asset sometimes. When you demonstrate weakness,
you're real. You're being real.
You demonstrate ability.
Yeah.
When you demonstrate ability, you have to listen. Most people don't listen enough. They're very quick to tell you what they want, what they like, what sorts of good, and so forth. But they don't listen enough. So, going back to that, in terms of what I would recommend to my children, your children, everybody else's children listening, listen. Listen, look at somebody in the eye. I think it's always very important. I remember telling people offline, there's a pleasure in sharing the pleasure of other people, even if it doesn't necessarily accord with your own. People are very, very quick to tell you how brilliant they are, this and this, and they have no interest in what you're doing. And I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
Show interest in other people, show curiosity, show warmth, show compassion. It may not be the most scintillating conversation. You may not do it again. But in the meantime, do it. Because you'd be surprised where the conversation may take you. Yeah. And I think that's one of the most important things of all. I think everything's too much of a hurry. People don't absorb information and appreciate. People aren't supposed to say, you know something? I thought about it overnight and I've changed my mind. I'm going to go the other way. It doesn't happen. People are very concerned. That's the whole thing with social media. This idea of like and dislike. I was saying something the other day. What about quite like?
Yeah, that's true. Well, quite like button on Facebook.
Like you were last time. It's like, why is it something that's got to be one or the other? Life's not quite so black and white in my view. And social media, unfortunately, encourages people to be very binary.
Yeah.
I'm in or out.
Yeah.
And can I sort of be in just this afternoon, maybe? I might be out tomorrow. Yeah, but you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like some of these politicians that change their minds on things, and then everybody goes against them. I mean, look, isn't somebody entitled to change their mind on an issue for some reason? I mean,
I think it's interesting. There's the famous economist, John Maynard Keynes said, when the facts change, I change my mind. I think that's pretty obvious. I mean, why would you not change your mind?
Yeah, of course.
Except, of course, if you've got a very deeply entrenched view, if you're a little bit prejudiced, if you're concerned somebody else is going to steal your thunder, or for that matter, something. You are very reluctant to acknowledge that actually you may do something differently, then you become very much constrained by your own limitations. And that's a bad thing. And I think obviously with regards to offline is designed to puncture all those rather high expectations you may have of yourself, and to recognise that we all can learn from one another if we give people the time. And I think that time is not actually given quite the billing it should be. Time allows you to think, as you said, to change your mind. Yeah. I think one of the reasons I think offline is great, I recommend all the time eating with people. You learn an unbelievable amount eating with people.
Yeah.
And let's say something. I, years ago, used to interview people for a company I was involved with, and often people would kind of work their way through the process, and I was asked to just take them, meet them, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I said, sure, I will do that. But actually, what I would do in certain cases is I wouldn't invite them to meet me in boardroom. Because in the boardroom, there's a kind of protocol, there's a kind of order of play. And I thought, people know what to expect. I want to take people something out of their comfort zone, and I would take them to a particular restaurant. It was a good restaurant, but it was busy, crowded, couldn't have to share a table, and I wanted to see what people were like in that environment. So I was very curious to see, for example, who had dirty fingernails? Who said, please pass the salt while lunging across the table? Who said, please thank you to the waitress? All small things, not even definitive, but it kind of gave me a clue as to what they'd be like in terms of relationships elsewhere. In other words, outside the confines of the boardroom. And I would then say, maybe accidentally on purpose, to one of my friends, by the way, I'll be at restaurant X at 2:30. If you're near, just swing by for a coffee or a glass of wine and get your quick impression of this individual. And more to the point, I want to see how they respond to you as a sudden interloper in a private conversation. And believe me, that was a very revealing set of conversations, because you see people who have a certain expectation as to how they should be treated, what should be discussed. I always want people to sit there without a script and just speak, in a sense, off the cuff, from the heart, what they think, what they feel, not what they should be saying, what everybody else was saying. I think that's very important. I think it's very, very important indeed to recognise that your voice needs to have, in a sense, a degree of independence.
Yeah, it has to be authentic.
Your own.
Yeah, authentic, and you're right. Yeah,
absolutely.
Authenticity.
That very much, I think, informs your point of view of the world. It's about recognising that you cannot be all things to all people. I like people who actually are, in a sense, a little frayed around the edges. Some people who are obsessed with the idea that they're always doing better than last year. I think, how dull is that? I mean, people not got a life. I think myself that is not something which I would encourage. I think if you want to lead a successful and rounded life, the amount of money you got, or the baubles you obviously obtained as a testament of that, is actually very uninteresting to me. I mean, because I used to actually say, what are you reading at the moment? What do you recommend? What do you go back to and read every week, for example? Which commentators do you enjoy in the press? Which films do you enjoy? What am I actually missing out on which you could teach me? But hearing how you made so much money and you've outperformed, I don't care, really. And truth be told, most people don't care either. But the difficult thing is when people are very, very successful, a lot of money, they're used to being right. And people don't like to be told, yes, no, that's a terrible idea.
They don't listen,
You told us that last time, and the time before that. And in fact, time before that as well. And that, to me, is an example where I think people's fundamental humanity goes out of the window. I think people recognise, people generally recognise actually it's about how you're able to gather people together and not separate them. And a lot of people in business in particular are very keen to amplify their success in financial terms as a measure of success. And I don't think that's a very good measure at all. I'm interested to know what kind of person you've got. So when you go to offline dinner, for example, you may have seen yourself, you may find, on your left, you do have a billionaire hedge funder, and on your right, you've got a piano teacher. Why? Because they may teach one another things about life in quite surprising ways. And you may find, in fact, that the piano teacher is a much more rounded individual, and the hedge fund manager, who may be very brilliant at working out, how to invest in different markets and get his timing right, may not be good much else besides. And that's also important to recognize. Most people do not have, in my experience, a multi-dimensional approach. People are very good at one or two things. I mean, if you think of some people who are within your orbit, you could say, something, that guy's a polymath. That guy is actually great at 5 things. Very unusual. Very unusual. It doesn't matter how great you are, frankly. It's whether you have the aptitude, whether you have the curiosity, whether you have the interest, but just try. And some do things, it's like eating. People say, no, that's not for me. I said, really, why? Oh, it's got a funny name, or someone who had a bad experience 15 years ago. I mean, the worst of worst reasons. I just feel that in life, one needs to a degree, experiment a little bit, take a chance, make your mistake, do it again. Nobody actually gets on the bike and gets it right first time. I want to see what say, come to offline. I want to see your grazed and bloody knees.
So let's talk a bit about aviation and travelling and that, because obviously a lot of people that watch the channel are into private jets and travelling and that. How do you think the whole travel thing is going to be changing over the next few years based on what we've been talking about so far?
Well, I think that obviously travel is going to continue unabated. Mm-hmm. It's not as though suddenly we're going to say, well, hang on, issues around security and so forth, such, we're all going to be sort of, taking the boat everywhere, or we're going to be sort of, hitching a lift. I think travel is going to continue in its present form. I think that I'm interested in the sense that travel not only broadens the mind, but it also gives you an opportunity to meet fellow travellers along the way. And one of the unspoken pleasures, in a way, of travelling, certainly on an airline, is the fact that you don't quite know who you're sitting next to. Well, you do a little bit, again, if you're actually asking everything to be vetted and pre-qualified, so you know exactly who's considered, alongside. But I think there's a randomness to life, which is great. When you're traveling on an aeroplane, you just don't know where they're coming from, where they're going. Look, nobody's trusting everything with your best friend. Nobody's trusting you saying, this is what you want to do this again next week.
Mm-hmm.
But you may find there's all kinds of interesting opportunities which emerge from a conversation. Now, that's one particular dimension. I think the other thing to say is that travel is obviously a huge benefit from the point of view of opening people's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Just the ability to travel distances which were even 20, 30 years ago impossible to conceive.
Yeah.
But I think nonetheless, it's all about speed and efficiency.
Yeah.
And I think myself would be interesting if you took a flight whereby the flight itself was geared towards a particular set of people with a particular set of interests. So in other words, let's say you are flying to, I don't know, you're flying to Brazil.
Yeah.
Okay, and on the plane, everybody going there, my nose, everybody on the plane is actually going to be interested in learning about the language, the cuisine, whatever it may be, of the country, and you'll be on board who talk about that. Now, I don't understand why it is that the offering from airlines is so generic. You would think, actually, they would create airlines for people who were either disabled, who were traveling with small children. Yeah. Why you couldn't actually create an airplane whereby there was an area just for kids to play?
Yeah.
And you have a nurse or two on board, gets an accident, something not very well, so well, and every single person on that plane, including the adults, will recognise it's for children. Now, I think there's a premium for that. Yeah. I think
there are actually airlines that are coming that are emerging that way. I mean, for example, Four Seasons Hotel now have kitted out a Boeing 757 with 54 seats, and they do these cruises in the air. So you pay.
That's great.
Yeah, you pay like $120,000.
Why is it so long to actually get this? I mean, to me, it seems it's obvious in the world. Yeah. The way airlines package themselves is, on the whole, certainly for the retail market, very, very generic.
Yes.
Pack it in, and it's a very standard offering, not particularly good, frankly, but it's like, it is what it is. But I think that the market and the world is becoming so much more segmented, so many more verticals are emerging. Yeah. If you say, look, saying we want people who are just going to be, I don't know, people who've got a physical disability. Yeah. You want to fly somewhere, okay, the plane is kitted out with wide-bearing seats. The plane is kitted out with rails all the way along so you can get up and down if you want to go to the bathroom and say, well, I don't understand why an airline would not do it anyway. It seems to me almost bog standard. Again, small children, people who've got a particular interest and so forth, airlines need to be, might be much more creative, much more innovative in terms of how they perceive the average customer. And of course, there is such an average customer. There are people who effectively live within a particular cluster. They have a sort of interest, a certain attitude, or something with disabilities. I know it is in a way. Yeah. But airlines, I think, should be much more creative in terms of how they use the space available. People, I think, will pay the premium.
Yeah.
If you knew, as a family, small kids and so forth, you're kind of worried about, oh my God, where am I sitting? And child A is always sick on the plane, and child B was losing his, okay, it doesn't matter. So because there are actually, on the flight, 150 other people, all of whom got small kids. Yeah. Okay, they're a bit of a racket. For 3 hours, we accept that. And the people there, and the food's better for kids, and I want to have the milk warm to a certain temperature, that's fine. As a nurse on board, because my kids not feeling very well. But somehow, it's as though the airlines, whether it's just pursuit of profit, I don't know, but don't seem to really understand or recognise that we do live in a world where there are very particular requirements, and I think they've got the means to develop it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are. Take Surf Air in California, which is now just launched in London, where they have private jets connecting two cities, and you pay a subscription every month, and you get unlimited flights, and you basically you buy a seat on the private jet. And so now they're flying from I think it's Geneva, from London to Geneva, and they've got 8 seats available. You pay your subscription every month, and you know that there's a flight to Paris in the morning on a Monday, there's a flight to Berlin on a Tuesday, and so that's been very successful in California, and now that they're starting to do that over here. And as I said before, you've got Four Seasons, which are now doing these luxury cruises in the air. So there are a few innovative business models coming into aviation, but I agree with you that we need more. We need a bit more variety. And sometimes, business today is not as creative as it could be. But still, we
Well,
are.
you mean the airline business is not creative, or business generally?
A lot of businesses lack
I
creativity.
agree with that.
Yeah, and
I
I
agree.
think I think as you're saying before, you have to have almost the guts to try something wacky, and if you fail, it was a learning experience. It's no big deal. Not every entrepreneur is successful. I mean, think Richard Branson. I mean, how many businesses he has that have failed, but he's had a lot that have been successful. It's just you just have to give it a go and see where it goes. And you can do so much planning with a business plan, but until you actually execute, you're not really going to know if it's going to work or not. And I think the beauty today of things like Facebook and social media, when you're posting an ad or you're going to do a marketing campaign, within a space of 24 hours, you can see if it's going to work or not. I mean, once upon a time, you had to advertise in a magazine or you had to advertise on television, and that cost a phenomenal amount of money. And
I agree with that.
And you put the ad in the magazine. How do you know if it's going to work? And then if it doesn't work, now you've already spent money to have, 1 million copies of that ad printed.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, and you can't measure it. But on Facebook, you can post something. You can post an ad on social media and measure it. See actually who's engaging with your ad, where they're from, the demographics and everything, and see if it works. And if 24 hours later it doesn't work, you change it. And that, to me, offers more of a platform for creativity to emerge than not. But I mean, it seems to me that people aren't going in that direction.
Look, I think that's, in a sense, one of the advantages of social media, that clearly you can gauge opinion very quickly. You can obviously develop a campaign accordingly. That's undeniably a benefit.
Yeah.
Well, it's the other way, of course. People give you erroneous information, or they actually give information based on the wrong reasons. But the concept is right, that obviously you are able to gather together significant amount of people who will give an opinion, often influenced by what everybody else is saying, which is why, in a sense, social media has many drawbacks. Yeah. It's just the fact that if they're doing it, I'm doing it. I think that's not much of a reason, but people do it that way anyway. Yeah. It's a kind of acceptance. So people like you that are part of the crowd. Be that as it may, I think that the other thing about air travel, particularly, is the fact that I, as you're aware, as a rule, do not travel first class. Occasionally business class, if something that's very generous often says, dear sir, please do fill the seat here. But ordinarily, I just go coach. Yeah. The reason I go coach is because, number one, you can pay 10 times the asking price, but in my experience, you don't get there any earlier. The second thing is, you sit in first class, there's no more or less turbulence. I'd rather spend the money on the rent, on an lovely hotel or going out somewhere, rather than when I'm cooped up. I don't feel more comfortable in first class. I have been there occasionally, but I have to say, very overrated. Unless, of course, you say, so we're in first class, and what you're seeing today, which is interesting, is the idea, what's it, very interesting airlines, that in fact there's a program, what's a cultural program in first class, which has been devised just for that trip. Yeah. That's it. That's what we're paying for. If you're simply saying to me, okay, well, for the privilege of paying $3,000, okay, well, you get your own knife and fork, and you get some bottle of, well, I don't care about that kind of thing, really. It may well be there are some people who are in first class, but you know something? I didn't get them in front of this, they all fall asleep. And I said, what a waste of money that was. Me, I could sit back of the plane, I had a radio conversation. I met all kinds of people on the plane, whether they are in business or whether they are students or whether they're on the way to visit their family. It doesn't really matter a great deal. Everybody's got a story to tell. Yeah. And the stories people tell in first class aren't typically that interesting. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they are, but often they're not. Yeah. And I think that first class needs to actually step up its game. The fact that I'm, being served dinner on a beautiful tablecloth is of no issue whatever. And do people actually care that much? I shouldn't think so. Now, I'd be very surprised if, chief executive A or B said, oh no, it was such an unbelievable experience because, I was served on, tablecloth with a crystal glass with my wine. Yeah. I'd be amazed. But there we go, look, maybe that's what makes a market. I'm just astonished actually that people will pay, say, fat premium just for the privilege of turning left rather than turning right. Yeah.
Okay, so in closing, Howard, what final message would you like to give the world on Tyrus Wings TV?
Well, I think the first thing to say, pleasure speaking with you. Hope we can do it again at some future point. If I can help you and also your listeners with regards to offer, I'm delighted. I think what I'd like to say very simply is that we are by nature social animals. Mm-hmm. but I think the social dimension is not given its due as it once was. The reason I say it is because social media, as we understand, is actually a deeply antisocial activity. Not as though you sit in the room.
That's good. Yeah, social media is an antisocial thing. That's interesting.
With 35 other people. It's like you sit there either in a cubicle, on the train, on the toilet, communicating back and forth, and that to me is not good. So really it's about how you engage people in the physical world. And the offline dinners, and obviously as many as I can do with offline beyond that, is really testament to the fact that I feel that fundamentally the physical dimension is what actually unites us. Social media, curious enough, separates us. And the idea you actually together with people around the table, as you know, breaking bread, laughing, arguing, eating, drinking, listening, whatever it may be, is actually the glue that binds it all together.
Yeah. Okay, Howard, thank you very much. And speak again soon.
See you soon. Take care. Thanks for staying.